They have another one on the agenda today.
It is what it is.
Turn on.
Judge, on the dental contract, we just want to add the sentence that it's paid at Medicaid rates. I don't think I got it in the contract, there was no rates in the contract. And, jail said it was going to be paid at Medicaid rates. And supposedly if they have an email that says that, then I just want to add one sentence to the contract.
Okay, phaser's on stun. Good morning, everybody. It is 9 a.m. on this Tuesday, September the 24th, 2024, and I'd call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Burnet County Commissioners Court here in the historic courthouse on the square in Burnet. And in doing so, I'd ask our local resident, Mr. Flagman, Steve Anderson, if he would lead us in invocation.
Father in heaven, we come once again before you with a grateful heart for the many blessings that you have bestowed on each of us. We give you thanks for our first responders, we ask you bless this time, and we give thanks for all the training and education better to each one of us in our time of need. We ask your blessing upon this nation's military, wherever they are serving throughout America and around this world. We do ask for more rain, and may it come in gentle, plenteous ways without loss of life, death, or property. We ask your blessing today on the men before us, the meeting before us, that your will be done. And with a heavy burden on my heart today, Lord, I ask your blessing upon the people throughout America. With the hatred that is so prevalent, that your love for each of us will overwhelm that hatred, that your love, that the love of your Son, Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, will overwhelm that hatred, that we will once again become one nation under God. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. First up on the agenda would be public comment. And reminder that the public has 3 minutes to talk about anything they'd like to. So please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Patty Cope, Burnet County voter, taxpayer, and interested person. Today I presented to the commissioners printouts from Ken Paxton's Public Information Act and TOMA Open Meeting Act. He talks about the Texans having a right to monitor government's decision-making, including the spending of tax dollars, and exercising of powers granted by the people. At the last meeting, in mid-meeting, the rules were changed for public comment, and I'm looking at a copy of the decorum rules that says, "The public is also invited to participate in the discussion of agenda items." And at the last meeting, that was changed, and I would like to point that out, that it's open meetings violation to change the rules midstream without notice. And then it also ties into something called the Accardi Doctrine, which is a landmark Supreme Court case decision that, if challenged, the actions that are done in violation So if I challenge the change of the meetings, the change of the decorum rules, because you're not following your own rules in the court, it can possibly invalidate some actions. So I wanted to give you that verbal notice, and thank you.
Okay. All right, please state your name for the record.
My name is Farrell Pruitt. I represent the residents of the Bonanza Beach subdivision, several of whom are at this meeting. We are here today to make the court aware of an issue our neighborhood has dealt with for quite some time. Earlier in the year, one of our residents chose to move their mailbox along the right-of-way. Neither the BBPOA, the postmaster, nor the water service provider, Corix, was notified about this planned action. Note that our covenants require residents to get approval from the architectural committee prior to any improvements. The water line was broken, service was disrupted, but the resident denied any involvement in the damage. After investigating the courthouse that day, Corix took the resident to the small claims court and won their case on 4/25/24. Upon leaving the courthouse that day, the resident pointed their finger at her neighbor, and who was one of several that testified on Corix's behalf, and angrily stated, "This is a game changer." Within the next several days, the neighborhood harassment began. Several noise-making devices were installed. These devices simulated the sounds of attack dogs barking and rifle shots being fired. I'm going to play a clip of that. So I'm just a sample of it. These devices can emit up to 130 decibels and can be triggered by a handheld remote, not just motion. In the last few weeks, this harassment has escalated with the addition of an electronic siren and very loud music being played via large speakers on her back porch, which directs the sound down the hill and across the neighborhood. The harassment noise is being heard by neighbors well over 1,000 feet away. The harassment makes it impossible for other residents to enjoy their own outside spaces because of the noise assault. The harassment typically starts about mid-morning and continues throughout the entire day without interruption, sometimes past 10 p.m. The harassment often continues when the offender leaves their property for hours on end. As soon as the harassment began, our first action was to contact Constable Leslie Ray. He visited the offender, but he informed us there was nothing he could do because the offender was within her legal rights. This just empowered the offender, and the noise assault continued. A formal harassment complaint was then filed with the Sheriff's Department. Evidence was submitted consisting of an occurrence log and almost 300 audio video recordings of the noise assault. I visited with Sergeant Travis Akers at the county annex about the complaint. He informed me the county attorney had reviewed the information and that there was no case. I was quite disappointed by this lack of concern of these two officers had for our problem. He was very condescending, and it was apparent to me that he just wanted to vacate the lobby and leave him to pursue what he considered to be more important matters that day. Even given the sheriff's office reluctance, when the offender continued to escalate their assault and started broadcasting loud music throughout the neighborhood, I called in another complaint. That day, Friday, 9/13/24, Officers Phelps and Fain made a visit and witnessed the noise assault. They took action, spoke to the offender, and while the volume level has decreased, the harassment persists. I was thankful for these two officers' attention to our problem. It was the first time I felt like someone at the sheriff's office was listening. I have done some research on this offender and have knowledge that charges were once filed on her for felony criminal mischief. I've also seen video of this person swearing and shouting at her neighbor from the street. This woman has shouted, sworn at me on the telephone the first time we ever spoke, incidentally, and she hung up before we completed our conversation. Several of our residents are afraid to speak out about her because of their fear of retribution. These harassments are a real problem, and I have concerns about the lack of attention this issue by the Burnet County Sheriff's Department and the Burnet County Attorney's Office may result in someone getting hurt. There's a lot of written evidence to support the fact that the noise is fatiguing. 9,100 decibels, just for your information, require ear protection. 50 to 60 decibels is annoying and causes stress and high cortisone levels that can lead to risks of heart disease. It is a well-known fact that constant noise has been used to torment prisoners of war. So do not underestimate its effects or the intent of the offender utilizing these methods. Our POA is taking steps to stop this harassment by following our enforcement policy for violations to our deed restrictions. Noise as a nuisance is a violation. We have sent warning letters, given deadlines for the noise to stop, assessed fines, all to no avail. We are currently collaborating with our attorney to pursue other avenues to stop the constant barrage of noise in our neighborhood. The barking dogs and guns going off sound devices are frightening to people just out for a walk and frightening to their pets in the neighborhood. The loud music, sirens, and football game broadcasts are destroying the tranquility of our quiet neighborhood. These are not the actions of a reasonable person, and I fear they could accelerate to an even greater harm if allowed to continue. We need help from the Burnet County law enforcement. We recognize Burnet County doesn't have a noise ordinance as such, but surely constant harassment on this large of a scale is legal. Those are my comments. I have a copy of this letter if you guys would like me to give you a copy of it.
Please. And I failed to announce Commissioner Luther is under the weather this morning, and this is in Commissioner Luther's precinct. Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment this morning? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Jill Randolph McAfee. On August 13th of this year, here in this Commissioner's Court, there were some unsubstantiated allegations leveled against Burnet County Sheriff's Office. As a citizen, I've seen way too much unfounded negativity aimed at law enforcement. As president of a company that trained law enforcement officers and prosecutors, I have a unique perspective on some of these issues. My analyses of statements are requested for capital murders to internal affairs investigations, so I pay very close attention to not only what is said and what is written, but what isn't when that person knows the truth of a situation and fails to share it. Currently, I'm an unpaid volunteer for this jurisdiction. I've had the privilege of seeing real character and honor behind the scenes exhibited by law enforcement, and I would like to share one of those with you. On May 3rd, 2016, some of you may remember a baby, 15 months old, Sunny Dakota Bort. She was unresponsive, taken to a hospital, and she died shortly after of severe injuries. It was the most heinous case I've ever worked on in my life. After the sentencing of John Lawrence, the courtroom was filled, not with people from the community, but with law enforcement, filled with law enforcement. I sat behind the DA and staff. Lawrence's mother and family sat behind him. He was sentenced to life without parole. No one from the family showed up for Sonny Bort. No one in the community other than those that worked on the case. However, Burnet County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Kristen Davis attended the sentencing. Afterwards, she asked me, where were the people for that sweet baby? Where was the community? And paraphrasing, I answered her, you're here. I'm here. Sonny had the voice of Sonny McAfee today. Sergeant Davis didn't have to be in the courtroom that day, but she felt called to be there. And the sheriff's office is filled with individuals that are called to duty for our community, and they all care. I believe we're all called for a greater purpose, and I appeal to you today to use your words with care. I appeal to you today to remember those that you may affect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other members of the public like to make comment? Yes, ma'am. Again, please state your name for the record and then. Yeah.
Pam Delaney, I'm here to back up Farrell Pruitt, our president of the Bonanza Beach POA.
Okay.
I'm the secretary treasurer, and I'm the one that lives directly across from the noise. Like Farrell said, it started in late April 25th, after the Corks case. It's lasted to this day. We sent many letters, and I was hoping the POA could take care of it. When it didn't, I went to the sheriff's office with 355 videos on a thumb drive, so that happened within, I don't know, 3 months. Gave them a log, gave them a map. She just, every time I step in my driveway, I'm on the board, so I'm also a target. Even my 84-year-old father is there trying to move stuff into my garage. She's just blasting at it. And when I Googled it, you can get it on Amazon. That thing is 135 decibels. I left for a month. I came home hoping it would be resolved. And the minute I stepped out Friday before last in my driveway, she had the music, which I can hear inside my house, the same alarm, and a new one that sounds like an ambulance. I have video of it, but you heard it from Farrell. Anyway, we've written letters, we've tried, and it just, I know there's no noise ordinance, but perhaps it's a harassment of the neighborhood issue. Anyway, just here to back Farrell up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any other members of the public would like to make comment? Well, under the public comment agenda item, we do have the rules of decorum and conduct, and there was an assertion made earlier that was not completely correct, because while it is true the public is invited to participate in the discussions of agenda items, the next sentence says there's a 3-minute time limit per speaker for public comment at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. That's what's been approved. Nothing's been changed. All right. What was that? I agree, but that's the definition of expectation on the rules and decorum. 4 would be discussion or action concerning a resolution of the Burnet County Commissioners Court regarding its objection to the issuance of TCEQ air quality standards permit for a rock and concrete crusher facility. I think it's rock crusher and concrete facility, to be located at 3221 FM 3509. Commissioner Luther has championed this as it is in his precinct. Of course, he's not here today. Do we have a copy of that resolution? Yes. So this is in concert with what the city has approved, it's my understanding. And it says, whereas the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality has provided notice of an air quality standards permit application for a rock and concrete crusher facility at 3221 FM 3509 in Burnet County, and has been made the TCQ permit reference is 176-835, and whereas such application will comprise of a quarry operation to be located within the populated areas that will be negatively affected. Such areas include recreation and tourism locations, business locations, and natural resource locations. And whereas a quarry operation negatively affects the health and safety of those in the immediate vicinity as pollutants and particles are emitted into the air, damaging air quality. And whereas the proposed quarry operation will utilize groundwater located in the geographic area in which the groundwater is limited, especially under drought conditions currently affecting Burnet County. And whereas the proposed quarry operation will generate a large amount of heavy truck traffic in a general rural area, negatively affecting tourism to the businesses and recreation areas in the immediate vicinity, cause further air pollution as such vehicles are quarried material in the area and deteriorate roadways, whereas the proposed quarry operation truck traffic will overwhelm existing roadways in the immediate vicinity and pose a safety risk to others operating on such roadways, and whereas the Burnet County Commissioners Court wishes to express its deep concern to an approval of the applied air quality standard permit and wishes to ensure that TCQ fully understands its opposition to this permit application. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Commissioners Court is opposed to the issuance of air quality standards permit number at 203221. We got a little typo we need to fix at the bottom of that. In Burnet County, permit number reference 176835. The gentleman, might there be a motion on this agenda item?
Move for approval. Go ahead. I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, let me get him first. Okay, do we have Ms. Millern in the house?
See her.
Allison Millern is not here? Okay, that was agenda item 5, but I didn't see her, so we may come back to that. 6 is discussion or action regarding the adoption of preliminary allocation of Series 2024 tax note proceeds. You have that in the handout.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as a requirement of utilization of tax note proceeds, there must be a budget established. That budget can be amended. This is a bit of a, I'd say, a practice dart throw. It's pretty close. Things could vary. But of the monies that are were funded by that, total of $5 million. Of the $5,053,000 is allocated to issuance costs, all the origination costs involved with that. The remainder would be setting aside or earmarking, if you will, $900,000 for election equipment, which we're required by the state to replace what we have, building repairs and maintenance. This would be the remodel, if you will, of the cafeteria section of the big jail, the county jail, to make it attorney-client rooms, and that's estimated at $615,000. We have some basement repairs at this courthouse that have been plaguing us for decades on some leaks. We tried to get an emergency grant from Courthouse Preservation Group, and were unsuccessful in that, so there's an allocation of $350,000 there to try and get that taken care of. We're of the understanding that we need new chillers out at the jail, and that's an estimated cost of $200,000. That's the HVAC system. We have $1 million allocated for right-of-way acquisition for the Works Dam Bridge project. That's 40 acres that is needed for that. Of the remainder of that, the remainder of the funds are allocated to each road and bridge precinct based on the funding formula that utilizes the formula we use for funding the tax allocation, which is the the valuation within each precinct, and then it's got a 50% equalizer in there to spread it out a little bit more, but still respecting the intent of the law. So within that would be Road and Bridge Precinct 1, $564,600. Road and Bridge 2, $385,810. Road and Bridge 3, $423,450. And Road and Bridge 4 is $508,140. So that is the proposed budget for the allocation of the tax note. So
I would
Yes,
just
ma'am.
like to make a comment for the record. You're not required to buy new machines in order to have a paper ballot. There's other means available without going into debt for that. You are not mandated by the state. You have authority to change the voting system that does not require spending $900,000. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, any questions, comments, or motions?
The only comment I have is on the election equipment. I know we have a road and a hill ahead of us on what that's gonna look like, but putting the money aside is probably smart for now, and then if we go in a cheaper direction, that would be better.
Right, okay. Yes,
Good morning. Yeah, I would just like to mention that over the course of the last 2 years, we've looked at being able to upgrade or actually provide some new cameras for the courts and the sheriff's office. Both years, it was kind of tackled with, let's try to get a grant. Both years, we've failed on being able to get a grant to secure cameras. And if there are funds available in this, that would roughly going to be between 100 and 150,000 on bids that we did when we were looking at them for using the grant for them. And so just looking for funds here at this time, and also just being aware of the additional ARPA money and whether there might be an ability to tag 150,000 for upgrading the cameras at the jails and the courts.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion.
I'd move for adoption of the allocation.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I've been advised that number 5 will not be here today. That will appear on the 10-8 agenda. Okay, that's taking care of number 6. Number 7, discussion or action regarding rescinding a revision to employee personnel policy section 3.07 concerning comp time, overtime. Is Shirley in the house?
I have a public comment that's supposed to be done, I guess, before the agenda
Sure.
item. Okay. Your attachment in the agenda shows a document dated September 25th, 2018 that is red and black and white fonts or text. And is that from the HR committee? And then because about a month before there was another black and red document from the HR committee in the minutes, and I'm trying to figure out, are we going back to something that the HR committee did? And yes, we can't have it back and forth, but under public comments, you are allowed to quote a statute, make a statement of fact, or put an issue on an agenda for another meeting, for a following meeting. So, thank you.
Okay.
Judge, I believe Shirley is here and can comment on this.
Hi, Shirley. I didn't see you back there. What are we seeking to do here?
My name is Shirley Bullard. I'm an employee of Burnet County. Back on September the 25th of 2018, personnel policy changed, removing comp time from the policy. And we proceeded to pay overtime for any overtime work for all employees. That went on without interruption until February the 14th of 2023. Commissioners Court was presented, changed the personnel policy to implement again comp time and to stop paying overtime. Was to be effective on June 1st of 2023. Commissioners Court was again presented on May 23rd to extend that implementation to September 30th of 2023. Was a lot going on around that time, and the comp time in lieu of overtime was never re-implemented. The above overtime compensation policy that was approved in 2018 is in the employee personnel policy and has been continuously followed since that date. The recommendation originally for the implementation of comp time again in February of 2023 was submitted to try to lessen the burden of excessive overtime pay that was far exceeding budgeted amounts. The issue has since corrected itself, and I ask that the court rescind that implementation of comp time and will continue to pay overtime for overtime work.
As the law requires. Okay, do you have any input on that?
County auditor agrees.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions, comments, or motions?
I move to rescind that.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and second. Any other comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right. Item 8, I have been advised by legal counsel to not have discussion on this item and to table that. So I would move to table
I got some
item
public
8.
comments before you
Please.
do that.
Absolutely.
There's a motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor.
I haven't said a
There's a
word.
motion on the floor. There's a,
Public comment.
there's a motion on the floor.
It's irrelevant.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and second. We have a motion and second, and per Robert's rules, any motion and second to table an item, there is no debate. I'd call for a vote. All in favor of tabling the item, please signify by saying aye.
I'd like to get.
Violating First Amendment rights.
You better get control of this.
Shh, please.
I'll second.
No, we have a motion and second. Per Robert's rules, there's no debate on the motion. You call for a vote, and that is where we're at. Call for a vote. Now, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. No longer an agenda item for today.
I move to open public comment again, please.
Is there a second?
Against the people of this county.
I'd like to hear
You
the
are
county
standing
attorney.
against the people of this county.
I just want to clarify, you were indicating that legal counsel,
Not you.
not me. That's what I want to make sure the public understands.
Right. All right.
Want to go back to public comment?
Is there a second to go back to public comment?
Never required one in the past.
Nope.
All right. We'll have public comment.
Well, I'll start with the mere fact that you're tabling this discussion indicates your lack of response or lack of ability to listen to dissent when they're opposing views. On August the 13th of 2024, you had a commissioners court meeting. And in that meeting, you presented the Baker-Tilly report, not forensic audit that was authorized by payment of $20,000. And you got a report instead that the county judge, James Oakley, changed the scope of that work to just counting the times that the term FTO or CTO was included in the report, 957 times. Changed the scope of it for only $20,000, counting 957 things. And then there were a lot of discussion, what the county judge says was background information. It wasn't background information. It was a sales pitch for his point of view that nothing had been done in the investigation of overtime being paid by the sheriff's office for FTOs or CTOs. So that everybody's on the same page, let me explain what FTOs are. They're field training officers that train less experienced deputies. CTOs are communications training officers that train less experienced communicators, dispatchers for the sheriff's office. They were being paid overtime for work when they were training. Now, I gave a report to the county attorney June the 10th of 2024 that was not disseminated to the court of the commissioner's court. I don't know why. I heard on August 13th, Eddie Arredondo, the county attorney, say that This was Sonny's report. Sonny should have disseminated if he wanted to. That makes no sense to me. He requested I do the report. He sent me the list of people to interview. He gave me the reports on the records. And in my cover letter back to him on June the 10th, I said, pursuant to your request that we conduct this information, which my office did out of a courtesy. We're not generally an investigative agency, but for local issues, we will do that. The county attorney's office has the same authority to investigate as we do, whether it's a misdemeanor or felony. What has generally happened, in fact, between the county attorney's office and myself in the past, is that an investigation's done by one or the other, and if he finds it's felony, once the investigation reaches that point, he brings it to me. If I find it's a misdemeanor, I refer it back to him. That's the way it's worked in the past. This time he said I should have disseminated. He's the attorney for Commissioner's Court. That's what it was sent to him for. And for any lack of clarification on my part, I apologize that you didn't get that report, but you've got it in front of you now. Now,
All right, thank you.
you're going to stop the explanation of this because you don't want to hear it. That's what you're doing.
That's the policy. That's the policy. I don't want to change, I wouldn't want to change the rules in the middle of the game. Thank you. Thank you. Please.
Does anybody have 3 minutes I can borrow?
No, that's not the way that works.
It is the way it works.
Please take a seat.
You might want to check the government code. That is the way it works. If somebody wants to relinquish their 3 minutes, I get it.
Please take a seat.
It's not stated in the policy, Judge Oakley.
Please take a seat.
This is incredible. And for you guys to go along with it, amazing.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Sir, please take a seat. Ma'am, or bailiff,
Stand down. You are out of order.
bailiff, please. Please escort Mr. Parker out of the room. All right. Would you like to have public comment?
Yes, I definitely would.
Okay.
I am proud to live in Burnet County. I am proud of the people that have shown up here today, and I am very saddened that you are taking this step to stop someone's First Amendment right to speak. Now, if you really wanted me to, I could go through Article 1, Section 27 of the Texas Constitution that says I have a right of remonstrance. And after the hiding and the secreting of all the investigations, and the first person who requested that someone look into it was County Judge James Oakley. He may not want you to know that. Of course, there's other things that they may not want you to know. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. I can't believe that our county attorney allowed County Judge James Oakley to speak for an hour where he had the audacity to try to belittle the DA's office and to say that nothing was done. And he contradicted himself in his own comments by saying Chief Investigator Jack Schumacher asked questions of HR. I would be happy to do a complete statement analysis on those comments for an hour of berating duly elected officials and everyone that works in those offices. They're good people. And I'm ashamed today. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in the court as a sacred place. And today, you've tried to tell us it's not. And I will not accept that. And I don't believe the people in this courtroom will either. Thank you.
All right. This agenda item has been voted on. It's over with.
What's the
Please
next
take a seat.
agenda item? What's the next agenda item? I would like to have public comment on that last agenda item under the rules that are written
It
that
says
we've been
before
operating.
the item, but it's been voted on.
Yes, I understand that. You can rescind the vote. You can reopen the item. There's a lot of things you can do.
Ma'am, I'd ask you to take a seat.
Judge, during the public comment from the beginning, the first agenda.
I haven't opened up another agenda item.
I believe you're under open public comment. Not,
Yes, sir.
not under.
Oh, customarily ask?
You are under open public comment.
Okay, so you've already had 3 minutes, so at the
But
first
not
public.
on, not on this agenda item.
But we're not under that. We opened up the original public comment.
We're looking at open meetings, a big open meetings problem, so let's be really careful here. Mr. Arredondo is responsible for the rule of law in your court here. You're responsible for procedure and policy, for presiding over the meeting, I'm sorry. But we need to follow the law, which includes the Open Meetings Act. So where are we? Because I would like to donate my 3 minutes to District Attorney if he would like my 3 minutes.
That's
It's
not a
not
provision.
prohibited
That's
in
not a
the rules
provision.
of conduct. It's
You're-
not
you're-
It
prohibited.
doesn't
Your
address it.
legal advice just that it's possible.
We're going to recess the meeting indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Well, in other words, I'm not saying 5 minutes, I'm not saying 7 minutes. We're going to take a break.
You guys are about to piss us off, James. I don't want to do
This
that.
is not going to go well for you.
Bailey needs to take you out.
All right.
Are you indefinitely postponing the meeting? So we can reconvene the minute you leave?
I'll do it when I come back.
I want legal advice before I do anything.
About to say, I don't think okay. I really don't know. Ma'am, I'm not the presiding officer of this court. I'm not.
Thank you.
one, just one more paper if you can find it.
We should be towards the first, but I think it's number one. Yeah, but that's it.
I don't know what to pull that one. I'm just gonna throw the shit out now. There's Eddie's here and Sunny's here. And this is the first time here. You talked to him? You tell him that we have high expectations and you know about.
I really don't understand why you want to table that unless going on the fact that you said take it away to everything. I think something's going on.
It does make sense. They have to make right. They if you make
and that the FTO, basically, they're just trying to, if somebody works 12 hours, and the clock is down, and then they work another hour.
So I'm still here, I guess.
Okay. Call back to order. Call back to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Burnet County Commissioners Court at 9:45. And we go to item 9, which is discussion or action concerning a burn ban for the unincorporated areas of Burnet County.
Did you, was I joined by public comments before you
Okay.
adjourned?
You want to have,
Yes, I'd like to.
okay.
Would the DA like my time? Alrighty.
All right, well, he could have had 3 minutes on this topic, so.
Now, just so I understand decorum, am I able to talk about the agenda item that we just tabled, or am I restricted again to what this item is? I don't want to be clear before I start using
Yeah,
the
no,
3
I
minutes.
want to go back to the policy, and it does not, it says there's a 3-minute time limit per speaker for public comment at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. I think the inference there is that it should have to do with the agenda item, but no one's being limited here.
Good. I want to go back to the fact on the investigation that was done. I want to give some background on how that came about. On August the 13th, you told Commissioners Court and the audience that you had first given me that information about the sheriff's office paying overtime for people that were not working it, or that's what it appeared to be. You didn't talk to me in August. We first talked about that November the 4th. On November the 4th was the first meeting we ever had about it. You told this audience in Commissioners Court that on November the 4th, I didn't intend to do anything on investigating the sheriff's office. And I said to you, well, the sheriff said it's not happening. And so is there anything else I can do for you? No. On November the 4th, that was the first time that Karen Smith, the auditor, and I met with you in my office, where you said you had concerns and you explained the payrolls, which gave me concerns as well, and said, yes, there are anomalies in the payroll records because it looks like somebody's working a 12-hour shift and being paid at 9 a.m. during that 12-hour shift from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, I don't think we went into the times as much at that point, but then you told Commissioners Court that I didn't intend to do anything on that, and that I didn't do anything. 4 days later, on November the 8th, which was a Tuesday, Karen Smith and I went to the sheriff's office and we met with the sheriff to discuss the problem. We told him what it was, and at that point he said, well, the first thing, if there's an issue like that where they're being paid for hours they're not working, that's going to stop, and I'll investigate it. I advised him, okay, you're an investigative group. If you see something's criminal, call me. If you don't, I'd still like to know so we can proceed, see how to proceed. We had another meeting. That date I don't have, but I was meeting with Karen Smith at her office where she brought up time clock, and I'd never been on time clock. That's the system used by the sheriff's office to record when they start and when they finish their shift. And we discussed that and the fact that in time clock, as this report says, if you put in an extra hour of overtime, it automatically defaults to 9 a.m. if you don't manually override the system. These records that we saw had a lot of entries at 9 a.m. plus a 12-hour shift. The sheriff...
Go ahead.
I lend my time to him.
Go ahead. I see how the game's played. It's fine.
The sheriff had investigated and said what's happening is they're not being paid 13 hours for 12 hours of work. They're being paid for 12 hours of work, and then the FTO, not the trainee that's with them, but the FTO has to do paperwork showing what they did during the shift, how they performed during the shift, and give them an evaluation every day that takes an hour. That they were never paid for hours that were not worked. And so at that point, when I left the meeting, it was my perception, and from what I understand, the perception of all three of us at the meeting, okay, the issue is with the fact that it automatically defaults to 9 a.m. and not an issue of somebody working and getting paid for work time that was not worked. Now, one thing I learned from listening to the recording of August 13th, I wish I was here, but instead I was in a murder trial in Llano. But one thing I learned is that County Judge James Oakley said there were whistleblowers that came forward in August of 2022, both current and present employees. I was never told there were whistleblowers in this case, and I learned about it August the 13th when I heard that tape. That wasn't brought up in the November 4th meeting and the subsequent meeting that we had where in passing it says that we've talked to the sheriff says this is what's going on, and so I heard nothing more at that time about it. Now, county judges said that I had false charges against him, filed false charges against him and malicious prosecution. And that's why he was absent, because of my malicious prosecution. It can't be farther from the truth. That didn't happen. I'm not going into all of those things because some of those things are still pending. But I can tell you he was well aware that it wasn't malicious prosecution. As much as I've got on my plate during that August, he says he talked to me, August of 2022, didn't happen. September of 22, we had a capital murder here in Burnet County and kind of tied us up. December, we had another capital murder in January. I got to tell you, if you think he's important enough that I'm going to risk the reputation I've got over 50 years of being in criminal justice, maliciously prosecute him, he's wrong. That didn't happen. It was out to the side. He said he was out because he was suspended by the Judicial Ethics Commission for a period of time. When he came back, he said nothing was being done on this investigation. Again, that was a misrepresentation. It was not true. Eddie Arredondo, county attorney, emailed me in August. Back up just a little bit to June 26th of 2023, I got a call from a ranger. Got a call from a ranger. He said he'd been asked by Sarah Ann Luther to investigate the overtime for FTOs and CTOs in Burnet County by the sheriff's office. I said, okay. He said, are you familiar with it? I said, I'm familiar with the way the time clocks work, and I'm familiar with the issue. And my issue, the initial issue, was I was to determine whether the sheriff's office was authorizing payment for work that was not done. And I asked him, I said, what is the complaint you've got from the sheriff's office? About the sheriff's office. And he said at that time that Sarah Ann Luther said the complaint at that time was that there was no authorized account for FTO overtime. I said, that's specifically, what else? He said, that's it, that there's no authorized overtime, there's not an account for that. I said, that's not criminal. I don't have any jurisdiction over that, that's budgetary. And he said, that's what I thought, but I wanted to check with you and I'll respond. I said, okay. And so that was the last I heard until Eddie and I talked about this, the county attorney, Eddie Arredondo, and I discussed that. In fact, he called me from Commissioner's Court to ask me about that issue, and I explained to him. So August the 2nd, I get another email, or I get an email from Eddie with a list of people's names, a list of payroll records, and he requested, in a phone call we had before we got the email, he says, will you do the investigation? He didn't tell me, he thought it was felonies. He didn't tell me that there were whistleblowers. He said, these are the names I got from HR. These records have questions about them. I said, well, we've talked about that, and I talked to you about the ranger. He said, this is different. Now they're alleging that they didn't work those hours. In my response to him in that email, I acknowledged, I said, that's a problem. If that in fact occurred, then that would be criminal. And so, yes, I will look at it. Again, we're not primarily an investigative agency. We often do investigations, especially when it involves local issues and local officials. So, Judge Oakley said on August 13th, nothing was done. That's not true. We started with interviews, interviewed those people, and I have to say, when I was preparing for this, I saw there was one employee on the list that he sent that did not get interviewed. That's something that we'll do, but all the records were in our file when we prepared the report. Now, the people that were interviewed were the command staff, and I talked informally with the sheriff. I didn't have one of my investigators interview him, but the command staff of the sheriff's office at the time the policy was instituted and during the time when the policy was in place, where if you worked 12 hours and you did the additional work as an FTO, then you got paid the FTO pay, the time that you worked overtime. But you had to do the work, and you had to do the overtime. So the report, we had one employee that said, that's not the way it was in the dispatch office. We had several employees in the dispatch office that said that's exactly the way it was. The captain over dispatch office was Chris Jett, got hold of him, and he said no, they were never supposed to put in for time they didn't work, and I don't know of any time that they did. The one employee that said, yes, I was told I could do that, we tracked down her boss or her supervisor in another state. That supervisor said, no, they were not authorized to be paid for time they didn't work. They were only authorized if they did that additional hour of time. Now, one of the other things that county judge said during this August 13th thing was why I ignored that investigation of the employee that told us that, yep, she had been told to receive pay. She was interviewed on 12/20 of 23. And specifically on August 13th, he said that in December, that's when I told him to stand down. When he brought me the evidence that there was wrongdoing by the sheriff's office, I told him to stand down. Said that more than once. No, I didn't. When you look at the report, not only did he continue with that interview, he got the records, he cited all of the records, and then he tracked down the supervisor, as I said, and went forward with the investigation and wrote part of the report. Jack Schumacher, my chief investigator, also assisted in the investigation and assisted in writing the report. And they continued that report. Now, one of the interesting things that occurred during the Baker-Tilly period of time when they're doing their report, as I said, it was authorized by you guys as a forensic audit, and the scope of work changed. You pay $20,000 for a report instead of an audit. They disclaimed. In fact, they disclaimed the fact that the information they got from Burnet, they wouldn't distinguish between firsthand information hearsay, logical inference, and speculation. They couldn't, so they didn't use that as reliable information necessary. It's not a forensic audit because a forensic audit is made for court purposes. It's not admissible when it's speculative like that. So that's their distinction in there. But one of the things that was written in there that made no sense to me was that the DA's office called several times about the scope of work. I thought, why is that even relevant to the report? So I went back to our emails and I went back to our communications. Baker Tilly in February contacted my office, contacted one of the investigators, said, we want to meet with you. I thought that's a logical thing. We're working on the investigation. It would be logical to have someone from Baker Tilly talk to us. And so my investigator came to me and said, the investigator in the Burnet office said, what do you want me to do? I said, get hold of the chief investigator, tell her to get hold of them and do whatever we can to help. I said, we've got some statements. If the scope of their investigation is criminal in nature rather than just doing an in-house audit, then we need to talk to them and see how we can cooperate and what we can do. I said, we've got statements from some of the people that Eddie had identified. So he did that. He passed it to my chief investigator, who sent an email back to Katie Rush, was the name of the employee for Baker Tilly. Sent her an email, said, we'll do anything to help you with your inquiry. Here's my phone number, here's my cell number, please give me a call. Crickets, never called back. He called her, did the same thing, left a voicemail, no response. He called a second time and then emailed the rest of us, excuse me, and said, if we can help you, give us a call. Still nothing. In May, I called and said, if there's anything we can do, I would like to know the scope of the work and talk to you about it, but if we can help, we'll help. No response, never called me. So I emailed and said, here's my phone number again, here's my cell number, here's how you can get hold of me. And then they gave me a very nice, don't call us, we'll call you. They'd talk to the county attorney, they'd talk to other people, but said, the scope of our work is done. We are finished, we are beginning our final draft of this for the Commissioner's Court, for our client, excuse me. They never said Commissioner's Court, they said our client, James Oakley, is who they identified as their client. He said, we will tell him you have called us, and if the scope of work is expanded, then we'll contact you for a meeting. But he said, we will tell him that you contacted him for a meeting, or you contacted us for a meeting. Again, it made no sense. Why am I not provided the names of the whistleblowers so we can do interviews? Why is the report not disseminated? Why is Baker Tilly not responding when they responded to other people that they initially wanted to talk to, when they called us first? Something was done in that investigation. Something was done in the course of the audit that prevented the cooperation that should have occurred. And then on August the 13th, you get the representations that the DA is not doing anything, the sheriff's office are trying to steal money from the county, and that this is ongoing and you need to have an outside investigator. Quite personally, I don't care if you get an outside investigator or not. I don't care if someone else investigates it. I've got some investigating to do, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to interview the people that were not interviewed. I'm going to talk with the county attorney about any potential whistleblowers so we can find out, is there something there? I will tell you, you got an honest sheriff. I've been in the criminal justice system for over 50 years at several different levels, both as a law enforcement officer as well as a prosecutor, and even working for the courts. And he's one of the best sheriffs I've worked with. I firmly believe that there is no policy, nor was there a policy in place to intentionally put in for overtime for time you didn't work. Now, does that mean that nobody did it during the time? I'm not saying that, because we have one person that says she did, and I believe that she did when she admits that. There may be other people, but we weren't given those names. We weren't given that information to proceed with the investigation. And I don't know why that is. But y'all can do what you want to as far as voting to go outside the agency. I've never maliciously prosecuted anyone. I resent the fact that a county judge would say those are false charges. They're not false charges. Grand jury in Burnet County found it was probable cause and went to trial. Now, I will say this. He went to trial. He was found not guilty. That was, to his benefit, he was found not guilty, and that means that I didn't prove the case strong enough. We have plenty of evidence, which we'll be glad to give anybody that wants to know what evidence came in trial. Be glad to share that with you. And you can call my office, call my cell number, however you want to. But the fact is, he's maligned the sheriff's office first. He maligned me and my office, and it's just not true. He's played the hide the ball with you in this court, on this commission, and as he said, we were flying blindly when he got you to vote on the audit. Then he said, okay, we need an investigation, but we haven't talked about it. It's the first time we've talked about it. That's why it's important, and you know the rest of the facts. That's what's happened in this case, and we'll give it a further look. We'll call the Rangers. I'll call anybody that I deem necessary to help us, because we need all the help we can get on investigations. As I said, we had 3 capital murders in that same period of time, but still, we carved out some time. Karen Smith, the auditor, carved out some time with us, and the sheriff carved out time to talk about this issue and to see what the issue was. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But this was done in a transparent manner on the investigation, as well as the other legal proceedings that were occurring at the same time. Any questions from the commission? Gentlemen?
We're under public comment. We can't respond.
That's right. Excuse me. These are public comments. I understand. I'm not going to entertain questions.
All right.
Hold, if I may have just a moment.
All right.
By the way, that report came out 64 days before the Baker-Tilly report. It was available for you to have been so that you could analyze how it coincides with what came from Baker-Tilly. That would have been very helpful for you probably before August the 13th.
It'd been nice to know. Okay. Item 9, discussion or action concerning burn ban for the unincorporated areas of Burnet County. Derek, are you here?
Herb is.
Yes, sir. Or Herb is, or one of you. How's our KBDI?
So as of yesterday, we're sitting about 531. Of course, we got about upwards of 700ths of an inch from the little showers we got yesterday. So it's not going to impact that very much. Now I can say from getting out around the county over the last week, even before we got into the 500s, things were looking a little crispy, to put it lightly. So I think it would be in our best interest to go into a burn ban, as for the next 7 days, there's no more rain in the forecast other than maybe just a possibility of a shower this afternoon, this evening. And also, last week, we also had the opportunity for the climate update from National Weather Service in Austin, San Antonio. And they're forecasting drier than normal conditions over the next 2 weeks, and especially over the next 3 months.
3 months?
So,
I don't like that.
and we're going into a La Nina cycle again. They're forecasting a weak La Nina, so hopefully we don't get an ice storm as we've seen in the past when we get into that January, February time period. But I don't want to put any bad juju on that, so I'll knock on a little bit of wood.
Yeah, so I figured out a good way to make it rain around here. Seems like if you pass a burn ban, then
Absolutely.
it makes it rain. So
Last time we did this, we got 7 days of rain, so.
3 days later,
let's-
here we go. So what's the will of the court?
I'd move that we adopt a burn ban.
Second.
All right, effective noon.
Effective noon today.
Sound good? So that's the motion. Is there any questions?
The only comment I do have is that in cooperation with the Burnet Fire Department, on Thursday, we plan to allow the school to have their bonfire in a protected way with trucks and all that good stuff, so.
It's in the city, isn't it?
It's in the city.
So they have jurisdiction.
Right, so, but I'm working with Chief Ingram on safety of that and allowing the bonfire. Just want people to know that.
All right.
Excellent.
So we have a motion and a second to impose the burn ban at noon today, which is the September the 24th. I saw that. Got my mind. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 10, discussion or action regarding a replat of lots 165 and 166 within Buena Vista Section 3 to be known as Lot 165A, Buena Vista Section 3. It's a combination of two lots into one. Well, Commissioner Luther's precinct, he's not here today, and so Herb, is there any?
Two and one, simple combination.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 11, discussion or action concerning the preliminary plat approval of the ranch on Lake LBJ, Phase 3, a private subdivision consisting of 20 lots on 13.36 acres located at the 200 block of Lexi Lane. Again, Commissioner Luther's precinct, but this is preliminary only.
It's preliminary only, Judge. I've reviewed it with him in the past weeks. What they've done is create a channel access to the property. They've done the dredging field, LCRA permits, all that. It is. Previously, this was done down. This is just phase 3.
Where's the water come from? K-Mud or where?
They've actually got a water control improvement district created for this subdivision, so their water and sewer is provided by that district services.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second on the preliminary plat. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 12, 13, and 14 have to do with the executive session. I see no reason to go into executive session today. 15 is acknowledgement of receipt of the TCEQ notice of permit. Notice of permit on water quality permit. These are all attached. The Railroad Commission, Texas Hearings Division notice, and also the Government Trappers Report. Not an action item, it's just something we recognize as being received. Sixteen, discussion or action regarding contracts and agreements or grants to be approved and or ratified. The County Choice Silver is a retiree health renewal for insurance. B would be approval of creative decor holiday lighting to perform the normal holiday decoration that's funded through the tourism funds. C would be acknowledgement and acceptance of the changes made to the jail on-site dental services contract. D would be agreement with Burnet County and the Central Texas Water Coalition for FY '24 as well as '25. F would be approval of the tourism marketing services contract with Victory Media Marketing, and that's a renewal, is it not, Blair? Somewhere I saw Blair. It's a renewal. G would be approval of agreement with Motorola for LPRs, license plate readers, for HOT ATTF. The cost for a year of service is $0 for 12 months once service has started. H would be approval of the contract with Meals on Wheels Senior Nutrition Program with opportunities for Williamson and Burnet counties. I would be approval to apply for a grant for vet rides for 25-26 from the Texas Veterans Commission Fund for our veterans general assistance. The period would be from July 1st of 26 to June 30th of 27. Actually, that should probably be July 1st of 25. Is that not correct?
I believe so.
So note for the record, on the item I, that would be a 25 start date. The amount is $75,000. That's a grant coming to us. J would be approval of a renewal contract with Tex Tours, or TourTexas.com, which again is a tourism contract. K would be approval of the agreement with Reliable Tire for a tire trailer for the HHW collection event scheduled for October 19th, 2024. So that's where we pay to have a trailer spotted there. L would be approval of the second amendment to the contract for emergency medical services between the city of Burnet and Burnet County. We parallel that contract with Marble Falls, right? Marble Falls area EMS, so.
That's correct. U is going to be Marble Falls.
Oh, okay. M would be approval of the temporary raw water contract Burnet County has on Lake Buchanan with LCRA, which, hello Susan Patton, thank you for being here with LCRA. N would be approval of the maintenance contract with Vistacom. O would be acknowledgement of peace officer reimbursement acknowledgement agreement. P, approval. And there's so many of these because it's that time of year. We start a new fiscal year on October 1st, so that's why there's so many of these. P would be approval of the professional services agreement with VetRide Administrator. Q would be approval of the Google Workspace ordering document for Burnet County Sheriff's Office. R would be approval of the Google Workspace ordering document for Burnet County. S would be annual renewal for the advertising contract with Highland Lakes Weekly doing business as Hallwell Media. T would be acknowledgement of the executed contract for County Road 420 paving project with KC Engineering. U would be approval of the second amendment for the contract with the EMS services between Marble Falls area EMS and Burnet County. V would be the interlocal agreement with Bluebonnet Trails Community Services for mental health jail-based services. Okay, all of those are still under consideration?
Judge, we would like to add a sentence to the jail dental contract that says, that states that we will pay at Medicaid rates. And we did talk with Matt at the jail, and there were no rates in the contract, but Matt at the jail did say that the contract was for Medicaid rates.
Okay, so note that amendment. So those are the contracts, agreements, and grants that are before us. Is there any questions, comments, or motions?
Move for approval of all items under item 16.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 17, discussion or action concerning calling for bids, bid openings, requests for proposals, qualifications, and related openings. A would be to go out for bids for hot mix asphalt. B would go out for bids for road striping. C would be award of bid for the road work to be performed on County Road 114. And just under this agenda item, also not a new item, but just clarification that the information is being published for the construction on the annex expansion on the square. That's where that's at in the queue.
Yes, that ad is about to run in the paper, and we should have it posted on our website shortly.
Okay, all right. And so those are the three items that are up for consideration.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Judge, just for clarification, on C, were you awarding the bid based on the recommendation? You're awarding the bid to Lone Star
Oh,
Paving?
that is an award. Tell you what, can we amend the motion just for items A and B?
I will amend my motion to include only items A and B.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now on 17C, we had bids were opened last week sometime, right?
Yes, and we received 4 bids from Lone Star Paving, Texas Material Group, Alpha Paving, and CK Newberry. The recommendation from KC Engineering was to award to the lowest bid, Lone Star Paving, in the amount of $445,849.75.
Okay. It's a great project. 114 is known locally as Graphite Mine Road that connects 690 over to 2243, is that right? 2031, 2321, 2341. Anyway, it's a weak link between two state roads. So is there a motion on that?
Move to award the paving bid for County Road 114 to Lone Star Paving.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 18, the following items are
Public
part of the
comment?
consent.
Do you want me to do public comment before you say 18 or after you read the
You're-
item?
You're at the mic, queued up and ready.
All righty.
Give us your 3 minutes.
Public comments, okay, so this is the consent agenda, and as a voter, taxpayer, and interested person, I would like to have the consent agenda open so that the public and the taxpayers can see what's in it. Thank you.
Okay. The consent agenda includes A, consideration approval of any pending personnel issues that are within the policy, approval of any budget amendments, as well as any line item transfers, consideration authorization payment of claims previously approved by the county auditor, acceptance of reports as required by local government code, consideration approval regarding departmental equipment requests and our property transfers, and any correspondence. Is there any questions, comments, or motions on any or all of the consent agenda?
Move for approval of the consent agenda in its entirety.
Second.
All right, motion second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Karen has something to
Oh.
say.
Yeah.
We just had one unusual amendment in here that I wanted to point out to the court. The court approved a part-time position for the magistrate's
Oh, yeah,
office
that
at 20 hours a week. The request came in for the part-time to be 24 hours a week. JP1, Judge Nelson, is allowing money to be moved from her budget to the magistrate's budget to fund the additional 4 hours per week, and that is in the budget amendments, and it was signed off on by Judge Nelson.
So now that she's disclosed that, when do I do public comment on this item?
You can have it now.
Okay, so there's a lot of, the magistrate has somebody who's been working a lot of hours, and I think there's a way to probably get the position funded earlier. There's been a lot of big raises this year, so I'd like the court to consider changing the 24 if the magistrate wants, moving that full-time before January, as soon as possible. Just a public comment.
Okay. All right, I think we're accommodating the request in that regard. Whatever they've been asking for, we've been accommodating it, so. Okay, we have a motion second on the floor. All in agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll go quickly to calendar review of things coming up. October 19th is the Household Hazardous Waste event out at the Recycle Center out on 963. That's from 9 to 1. If you'd like to volunteer to do that, show up at 8 o'clock for safety meeting. And I'd like to publicly thank Commissioner Dockery for really historically over the years embracing this event. And it's a well-oiled machine now, I would say. And we do take old oil too, by the way, for what it's worth. There is
The Crisis Center had a
they have
benefit that's coming up.
yeah, that's on the 19th. That'd be no, pardon me, on the 5th. That is a clay pigeon shoot. Sponsorships are available. Great organization.
Sorry if I missed it. The Advocacy Center's annual fundraiser is on October 26th. Did you say?
What is that?
Rifles, Racks, and Deer Trucks.
October 26th.
Where is it?
It is going to be at the YMCA.
YMCA. Okay. Oh,
So I got one additional thing to add to the calendar. October 3rd, our Burnet County CERT will be conducting our basic training class. It'll last about, I think, 6-7 weeks.
it's the first class?
Yes, so October 3rd will be the date of the first class. So if everybody wants to sign up, Burnet County Search.
There's still time to sign up for that.
Absolutely.
It's a great, CERT stands for Citizen,
That is the Community Emergency Response Team.
yeah. Great group of volunteers, who actually work the HHW event, and, great program. All right.
Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club has their annual Buckaroo Ball on November the 9th.
October 13th, Burnet Project Grad has a golf tournament. They're still looking for sponsors and golfers for anyone who's interested.
Okay, which group is that?
Burnet Project Grad.
Okay.
For the graduating seniors.
All right.
This Saturday, the Kingsland Chambers Taste Highland Lakes event is at the Legends. It's a fundraiser for schools.
Okay. Anything else public wants to promote? I like the sound of an infant in the room, that's good. All right, with no other events, that's everything on the agenda. Sorry, with the exception of item 5, and that'll be reappear on the 8th. So with that all being said, I would adjourn the meeting at 10:25.